Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is my channel Secret Life of a Seamstress, where I love to talk all about sewing and making clothes and knitting and crochet and lots of other crafts as well. I'm mentioning all the crafts today because today's video is just going to be a little bit of a chatty catch up. I had a week off last week, it was half term, everything ended up being really busy, so I missed a video, so I thought I would just pop on today and just do a big sort of chatty catch up really. I think lots of people call these kind of videos podcasts. I've never really called mine podcasts, I don't know why, but maybe we'll call it a podcast for today. So I've got some sewing to share with you. I've got some sewing garments and I've also got a couple of crafty bits of sewing that I've been doing. I've also got some knitting, quite a lot of knitting actually, to share with you in the form of works in progress. And then at the end I thought I'd just do a little reading update as well, because it has been a little while since I've done one of these videos. And I know lots of you love the reading as well because you're also big readers, so I thought I would just share with you what I've been reading as well. I love filming these kind of videos because I feel like I can just sit down and have a chat. So I'm deliberately going to leave this video quite long and chatty, but I will put timestamps in the comments as well. So if I do waffle on a bit too much and you feel like you want to skip forward a little bit, I won't be offended. I'll leave those links in the video description for you so that you can fast forward if you need to different sections. Today, if you're interested, I'm wearing my Whitmore cardigan, or one of my Whitmore cardigans, I should say. This is hand knitted and this pattern is by Amy Loudon. This was the first Whitmore cardigan that I ever knit, and then I quickly became addicted, and then I knit two more quite soon after I'd knit this one. This one is made from like a cotton DK yarn. It's probably the lightest version that I've got, and this one just has the tapered sleeves. In my two following versions, I actually did the balloon sleeve versions, which I actually prefer. I do tend to pull my sleeves up quite a lot, and I feel like these can be quite tight around my arm here, which is fine because it does keep them in place. But I do, I think, prefer the balloon version. And this one's also the longer length as well. Just stand up and show you. So I've knit this one a little bit longer, and it just sits a little bit sort of lower on my hips than the other two versions I've made, and both of those are the cropped version. I still have not actually knit the Whitmore sweater. It's still very much on my to knit list, and I think that one might have to be done this coming autumn time. I absolutely love the lace pattern in this cardigan, and it's the same lace pattern if you knit the sweater as well. You just knit it in the round in the form of like a rounded yoke, and then you split for the sleeves. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite ever makes. I do still need to change the buttons on this though. I did have this buttoned up at the neck like this when I started this video, but it just keeps popping open. I think the buttons are a little bit small for the buttonholes, so I either need to sew up a little bit of the buttonholes, you see it's just done it again, or I need to get some bigger buttons. That's just one of those changes that I know I need to make that will either never get done or one day I might get around to it. You never know. Anyway, let's first of all start with what I've been sewing, shall we? I think in a couple of videos back I shared with you two lovely French terry fabrics that I picked up from a fabric and craft shop, which is quite local to me. When I say local, it's about an hour away, so it's a little bit of a drive, but I'm really glad that I know it's there now because it was such a lovely shop. It's called Needlecraft in Hemel Hempstead, and it has yarn, patterns, accessories, buttons, zips, and everything you can think of really, and some really lovely good quality fabrics as well, and not just quilting cottons. I feel like so many haberdashery shops these days, they just stock quilting cottons, so it's really lovely to find a shop that actually stocks lovely dressmaking fabrics, and you can actually go there and touch and feel the fabrics, which I love. So I had to come away with some fabric. And I ended up buying a couple of French terries. French terry, I think, is really lovely for springtime and like in between weather, because it's not massively warm for winter time, but it's kind of warm enough to keep you cozy on the chillier spring days before it gets really hot and before we're properly into summertime. So whenever I have stripy fabrics to use, I normally refer to two patterns of mine, either the Cocoa Top by Tinning the Buttons or the Toaster Sweater by Sew House 7. So for this particular French terry, I decided to go for the Toaster Sweater by Sew House 7. I've made both versions of the toaster, but my favourite version is definitely version 2. So with this version you have the, I think this is called a mock neck, correct me if I'm wrong, so it's a little bit high. It's kind of like a funnel neck as well, I guess. Like a cross between a mock neck and a funnel neck, I think. But it just folds over, so it gives you a little bit of height around the neckline, but it's not too much, and I really like that. Obviously it keeps you a little bit warmer, but it also looks quite nice and flattering, I think, as well. And then the rest of the sweater has a kind of A-line style to it, and this really nice high-low hem which is finished with a mitered corner at the corners and the hem. So I decided to just whip up a quick toaster sweater with this lovely French terry. I have not really ever seen a French terry like this before, and it's sort of knitted. If I hold it up to the camera, I guess all French terry is knitted in a way, but this one just feels more as if it's a cotton knit, if that makes sense. So it's got a really lovely drape to it. It's really nice and light, and I just loved the texture of it. I thought it was a little bit different. I love a blue and white stripe, and this one is a little bit different to what I've already got in my wardrobe. I really enjoyed sewing this one up. It's a super quick sew, the toaster sweater. I think I sewed it in about 1 hour and 40 minutes, not very long at all. I did cut on the previous day, but I would say it took me about half an hour to cut out. It's not very long. It doesn't take very long to cut out. So yeah, it is a very quick make. It's the kind of thing you can just kind of whip up in a day. I've worn this a few times already, and it's just a really easy spring wear. As I say, you can just pop it on with a pair of jeans. I've worn it with jeans and loafers. I've worn it with jeans and trainers, and it just feels nice and casual, and I just love it. I'm really pleased to have that in my wardrobe. It's a really lovely length as well, the toaster sweater. This length, it comes to around sort of mid-hip, I'd say, just below the waistband of my jeans, so it's not too long either. I sometimes wish it was slightly more A-line than it is. I think if you're using a drapey fabric, it's really nice to have that sort of A-line swinginess. So possibly something to think about if I ever make this again. Maybe I could make it a little bit more A-line. But yeah, it's got some lovely finishes as well. It's finished sort of with a facing inside here, and then you've got the lovely mitered corners at the hem, so it just gives it a nice, neat finish. So that was my first sewing make. Probably not too much more to say about that one. It's just a standard toaster sweater, one of those things you're just happy to have in your wardrobe, really. One of those things that you can pull out, and it's really lovely and easy to wear. So I'll go in order of things that I've been making recently. So the second thing that I've recently made is this Nephilim blouse by Vivian Xiao Chen. You might remember that I've had this pattern with me for quite a while. I had it printed by PDF. I've had it printed in A0 format, or whatever you call it, at the fold line. So I had it printed and ready to go for ages, and I also had this fabric, and it just took me absolutely ages to get on with it for some reason. I think I was going back and forth on this fabric actually. I kept thinking, should I make a dress with it? Should I make a blouse with it? And it took me a while to just sort of decide really what fabric I was going to use for the blouse. Anyway, one day I just decided to get on with it because, again, I feel like this is the kind of blouse that's really good for this time of year. So you've got the long sleeves, gives you a little bit more coverage and warmth than maybe full-on summertime when it is quite hot and it might be a little bit too warm to wear longer sleeves. We can hope anyway. I do live in England after all. I'm sure there will be plenty of cooler days in the summertime when I can still wear this blouse. But yeah, I finally got on with sewing this blouse up, and I am thoroughly pleased with this. I love it so much. So if you've not seen the Nephilim blouse, this was a far more popular pattern than I actually realised. When I found it on the fold line, I thought, I haven't seen that around anywhere. I didn't think I'd seen anyone else sew it up, and I thought it was quite a new pattern. Maybe it is, I don't know. But since then, and since I've shared that I've been making it, lots of people have said to me, oh yeah, I love that pattern, I've made it like X amount of times. And I think, how have I been so behind the times that I've not seen these makes and I've not sort of heard of this pattern? It's a really lovely one. So what I would say is that it is similar in style in a way. It reminded me of the Anthea blouse by Anna Allen in the way that it does have these lovely puffy sleeves. It's quite oversized and billowy, and it's got this round neckline. So if I pop up the line drawings on the screen, you can see that there are actually two different versions. So you can make a plainer version with quite a high round neck, and that version is just buttoned down, but it does still have these lovely sort of billowy sleeves. Or you can make a slightly more scoop neck version, which is the version that I've made, which has this pretty frill that runs around the neckline, and then it just has the same sleeves with the knife pleats. So I was really attracted to the neckline frill and also the pleats in the sleeves, and that amount of difference was enough for me to buy this pattern, even though I already own and love the Anthea blouse. But in terms of construction, the construction process is very similar to the Anthea. So if you have made the Anthea, you'll be absolutely fine making this blouse. So this fabric that I've used is a viscose crepe. It's from Self-Made. It's got the most beautiful print on it. I absolutely love this. And I think that's why I dithered around for so long as to what to make with it, because I knew that I just loved it so much that I didn't want to waste it on making the wrong thing, if that makes sense. But I'm really glad that I went for this blouse, because I feel like this sort of pale shade might be too much as a full dress for me, but as a blouse and worn with dark jeans and dark bottoms, it's really lovely, and I absolutely love it. I love the colours in it. It's got this like corn yellow and then a really pretty green as well. And it's actually got a really nice weight and drape to it. So because it is a crepe, it is quite weighty actually, but it's not so weighty that it kind of gives you the structure that a cotton or a linen would. So I made the smallest size, which I think is a size 0. So the body measurements for the smallest size are a bust 32, which I am. That is my body measurement, a bust 32. But you actually get 8 inches of ease in this pattern. So it is quite a floaty, billowy kind of blouse, and obviously that is the style of it. But I would say if you are wanting to make this blouse, definitely look at the finished garment measurements as well as your body measurements, because you might find that the amount of ease included is actually quite a lot for your body shape or your size. So yeah, definitely check your body measurements of course, but then do check the finished garment measurements as well. In terms of the sewing process, it was all really enjoyable. The instructions were really, really good. The frill of the neckline did take a while, I'm not gonna lie, especially in this fabric. I think if I was sewing from a cotton or a linen, it maybe would have been a little bit easier. Because this crepe is quite crinkly, it was a little bit more difficult to gather, I would say. It is one of those, I would say, a no pain, no gain kind of process, because it's fiddly while you're doing it and it takes time, but the effect is totally worth it, I think. And then I really do love these pleats on the sleeves as well. I think they're such a pretty finishing detail, and then the sleeve is gathered into a tiny little cuff here. So yeah, really pleased that I've finally had a go at that blouse now. It's lovely, and I know I'm going to be making many more versions of this. I should say actually I've been comparing it to the Anthea a little bit, but with this blouse you actually get like a flat top of the sleeve. The Anthea is obviously quite puffy at the shoulder, so you get that big amount of gather at the shoulder. With this one, another thing I really like about this blouse is that it is sewn in flat around the shoulder seam, so you don't get that gather. So if you're someone that doesn't want that additional sort of height and poofiness around your top half, this blouse would be a better version to go for, better design to go for, I should say, because you don't get that at the top. You just get the ballooniness at the bottom of the sleeve. So yeah, really pleased with that one. That'll be a lovely addition to my spring wardrobe, I think. If you are interested in more detail on this blouse, I've got 3 videos up over on my Patreon sewing membership, just giving a more in-depth review of the whole pattern, sizing, fabric choices and all that kind of thing. And I've also put up to sort of more close-up, in-depth video tutorial type thing of how to sew in the frill neckline and how to do the knife pleats on the sleeves. So if you feel like that would be helpful to you, then I will pop the link to my Patreon here, and I'll link it in the description down below as well. I'm just hanging these makes up next to me as I go along. So last in sewn garments is another French terry make. This one is a little bit of a pattern mashup actually. So this is the other French terry fabric that I brought from Needlecraft along with the toaster sweater fabric. And again, this is just such lovely quality. It's a really soft French terry. It's not brushed, but it feels as though it's brushed. So I wasn't sure what to make with this. When I made that toaster sweater and I really loved it, I thought, oh, should I just make another toaster sweater with this navy and white fabric? And I was also umming and ahhing about just another simple cocoa top, because I wear my cocoa tops all the time just with jeans in the springtime, and I know that I would get a lot of use out of that. But then it kind of struck me that I love the cocoa and I love the toaster. I love the neckline of the cocoa and I love the hemline of the toaster. So I set to thinking about whether I could combine both of those two elements that I love from both patterns into one top. And I made a little mashup pattern of the cocoa top on the top half and the hemline of the toaster sweater. And I am absolutely in love with this mashup. I think I may have created myself the perfect spring top. So whilst I do love the high neckline of the toaster, there is a time and a place and a certain type of weather where you don't really want to be wearing that high neck, and I feel like this boat neck or slash neck style is really nice for springtime. I love a slash neck with like jeans and loafers and a coat, and I think that neckline, again I keep saying neckline, but I feel as though it just goes really nicely under things, so you can easily wear a jacket or like a trench coat or something over this without feeling too bulky around the neckline. So yeah, this was a really good experiment and I'm so glad that it worked. So a couple of slight differences. This one is a little bit more cropped than my previous version, than the normal version, and it's also got a little bit of a higher split in it. And that just kind of worked itself out naturally, if I'm honest, because of how I was trying to mash the patterns together. So all I did really was lay my cocoa top down on the table, and then I got my toaster sweater pattern, I matched them up at the armholes, and then I literally just drew the sort of sides and the hemline of the toaster and added the top of the cocoa, if that makes sense. So the toaster sweater is way more A-line than the cocoa top. The cocoa is actually quite fitted and it comes in slightly at your waistline. So this top is much more A-line, much more roomy than the cocoa top would normally be, and I love that as well, and it just sits so nicely over jeans. I've worn this a couple of times now. I've worn it with straight leg jeans, and it also looks really nice with my cream dawn jeans, and yeah, I'm just so happy that it worked, really. You know, sometimes you try these things, or I do anyway, and I think I have no idea if this is going to work or not. And then when it does and it comes together, it's just so satisfying. And I'm going to be using that pattern that I've redrafted now for probably loads of different tops, because I just love the style of this. And again, it's just a really lovely top to have in your wardrobe for spring. So easy to wear, especially in stripes, and I always feel like stripes are just quite classic and they're really easy. Well, I keep saying easy to wear as well. Forgive me for how many times I'm repeating myself today. It's obviously one of those days, but I just feel like they go with so many things, and even if you just pop them on with a pair of jeans, shoes, a jacket, I just feel like you feel a little bit smarter, or you feel smart. I don't know what I'm trying to say this morning. Hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. I just love stripes, really, and I'm so pleased with how this worked. So I did film the process of my pattern redrafting of this, and I'm going to pop that up on Patreon. I still need to edit it, but that will be available to both free and paid members. So if you're not already a member of Patreon, either free or a full member, do pop over and join. And I would love to have you over there. You can see all of the content that I post on Patreon as a free member. It just won't all be accessible to you if you're not a full member. So just so that you know that, but I will link it down below. I do need to, as I say, just edit that still. But yeah, I will just pop that up, just show you how I did it. It's not rocket science, really. It's just mashing two patterns together, but obviously there are a few things that you need to think about along the way when you are doing that. So I hope that will be helpful. And I can't wait to make another one of these. I'd really like a black one, actually, or maybe a plain navy one. for my next sewing make, I've had to lift up my entire sewing machine. This isn't my sewing machine actually, it's my mum's. I've borrowed it because this week I have been working on a tutorial for Sew It Yourself blog. I write for Sew It Yourself blog. They are a website who stock loads of quilting cottons basically from lots of different designers, and what they do is actually send me some fabric every quarter and I'm allowed to make what I want really, but also just write it up as a tutorial with photos and step-by-step instructions for how to make something crafty. So that's what I've been working on this week, and I thought I would just show it to you because I literally just finished this yesterday. So I've been making a little sewing machine cover. So this just pops over your sewing machine and it ties up at the sides, and then it has try not to drop this. It has some pockets in the front here too, so you can just pop your scissors in, or your rotary cutter, or your tape measure, or whatever you want. And then when you take the cover off, you can actually use this as a mat for your sewing machine, and you can have it hanging over the table so that you've got all your bits and pieces in for while you're sewing. And I thoroughly enjoyed making this because it involves one of my favourite things to do, which is patchwork. So I've just made myself a little 4x9 square patchwork design in 3-inch squares and just added a little border in this natural linen, and then the pocket down here is just sewn from a part of a fat quarter of another of their designs, and I've just used another of their fabrics to bind it and then create some little bias binding ties at the sides. And if I just take this off, I will show you the whole mat. So this is what it looks like off of the machine. As you can see, it's just really a flat mat, so that would just lay on the table while you're sewing, and it can hang over the edge with all your bits and pieces in. And then when you're done, you just pop that over the top of your machine, tie it up, and it acts as a little dust cover, and that's the back of it. So that's just another lovely bright fat quarter that goes along with this sort of design collection. I really enjoyed making that yesterday. I love a bit of patchwork, and it's always lovely to go back to making like a crafty project sometimes, or an accessory, rather than just garment sewing all the time. I find patchwork so therapeutic. It's mainly just obviously straight lines, and I just love the effect of quilting, machine and hand quilting. So it was lovely to do that one. And that will be up on the Sew It Yourself website as a tutorial in the coming summer months. I'm not sure exactly when, but I will be sure to promote it over on Instagram, and I'll try and remember to promote it on YouTube as well, so that if you would like to sew one for yourself, then you can pop over and follow my tutorial. So I actually made this for my mum's sewing machine because it's a bit smaller and more of a standard size than my humongous beast over here, and I thought if I wrote the tutorial for the size of my sewing machine, probably not so many people would have that size, so I made a more standard size. But I'm definitely going to be making one of these for my own sewing machine, and it's a really good way to use up scraps as well. And I have so many scraps, so many cotton scraps from my Etsy shop days that I really could do with using up for something. So yeah, that's a really good idea for a way to use up your scraps if you do have some hanging around and you want to use them up. So that's what I've been working on this week. That was really fun. And then another little thing I've been working on, I'm not sure if I've mentioned here before that I'm actually running some sewing workshops now, some in-person sewing workshops local to me, and it's been such fun and so good for me. It's something that I was really nervous about doing, but the more I'm doing it, the more sort of confident I think I'm becoming with it, and I'm loving sort of getting out of the house and actually speaking to people properly and teaching them how to sew and seeing the joy that comes from them sewing their own things. So we've been making a few different crafty bits and pieces, and this week we've been making these fabric baskets. So these are so handy. I have so many of these all around the house. Again, this is something that I used to sell in my Etsy shop back in the day. So I've just used the little pattern that I used to make those items when I used to sell them. And yeah, we've been making those. So these are, just take out this one. So these are fully lined, so they're lined inside, they're interfaced to give them a little bit more structure so that they can stand up on their own. They've got a circular bottom, and then I've just decorated mine with a bit of crochet trim so that when you turn over the lining, you get that pop of colour in the fold over, which is in the lining, and you also get the nice trimming as well. So that was my sample bag that I took to our workshop to show the ladies what we were going to make. And then I also made myself this one. So this one isn't interfaced actually, so it's much more floppy than that one, but I made it up as a sample as we were sewing. I'm actually really pleased with how this turned out. I love the beige. So this beige is actually a remnant from the blind that's in my kitchen, and then the inside is the remnant from my daughter's blind in her bedroom. So this one I think is either going to go in my kitchen or in my daughter's bedroom. I really like, you know, in the kitchen sometimes you can have those things that hang off of a shelf and you put bits and pieces in them. I'm thinking of maybe putting a little hanger on the top there and just hanging it from my kitchen shelf and putting something not too heavy in it, but I think that will look really nice. So I'm thinking one of my sort of goals of things to do when I get time is to either write up or film video tutorials of the things that I used to sell in my Etsy shop like this. So let me know if you think that would be a useful thing to do. It's just on my list of things to do whenever I get enough time to do them, basically. but yeah, that's another little crafty project that I've been working on in my sewing time. So let's move on to knitting, and I have 3 works in progress to share with you. The first thing is the first cardigan by Hive Knits, which is still plodding along. This seems to be taking me forever to finish, but I am getting there now. So I've been working on the first sleeve, and I've literally just finished the first sleeve. I cast this off last night, but for some reason this has just been taking me so long to do, and I don't really know why. Well, I know that fisherman's rib, this is half fisherman's rib, by the way. I'm probably going to keep saying fisherman's rib, but just know that I mean half fisherman's rib. So basically on the knit rounds you knit fisherman's rib, and on the purl rounds or the back rows you just knit a normal rib, so you're not quite doing the sort of full fisherman's rib. Anyway, I have now knit the first sleeve. So with this one, I did have some sizing discrepancies, I would say, between the length that the pattern told you to knit and how long I wanted the sleeve. So I'd got to the length where the pattern said should be enough and you should finish and do the cuffing, but my sleeve was sort of up here still, and I want my sleeves to be quite long. So I was knitting and knitting and knitting, and it just felt like the sleeve just was not growing. It seemed to take forever to get to the length that I wanted it to be, and I have a bit of a fear of sleeves being too short. So I am a bit weird again with sleeves. I do like to pull my sleeves up most of the time, but if I'm going to have a long sleeve, I like it to be really long, especially if you've got the balloon sleeve effect, because I think the more length you have in a balloon sleeve, the better it looks, because you kind of get that sort of pulling effect at the cuff. So yeah, it did feel like I was just literally knitting forever and the length just wasn't growing for a while. But it's done now. The first sleeve is done, and I need to make sure that I pick up my stitches for the second sleeve quickly. Otherwise I'm just going to put this down and I'm going to get the fear and I won't want to pick the sleeves stitches up again. I seem to be like that about picking up sleeve stitches. When you actually do it, it doesn't take very long at all, does it? But I always feel at the back of my mind that I don't want to get it done. I've got 2 parts of this sleeve that I'm a little bit concerned about, and you might be able to see on the camera that I've got a bit of a mark here for where I've picked the stitches up, and I don't know why that is really. It's just a little bit of a bumpy line, and it might just be where my tension has changed from where I was knitting the rib flat to where I started knitting it in the round, but I'm really hoping that a bit of blocking will sort that out. I've definitely got a different texture actually from where I've been knitting it in the round to where I knit it flat. I'm much neater at knitting flat than I am knitting in the round, which is kind of annoying. And then I've also got this bump here for where I put in a lifeline, and I've taken that out now, and it's just still left a little bit of a bump in the stitches. So again, I'm just hoping that when I block this cardigan, that will sort that out. I'll just pop this on quickly so that you can see what it looks like. So there we go, there is sleeve number 1, and I think this is just about the right length now, and I guess that blocking again maybe will stretch that sleeve even more. So yeah, we will see. I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to blocking fisherman's rib and blocking fluffy knits like this, so I'm not quite sure what effect the blocking is going to have on this. This is so warm and cozy. It's definitely going to be more of a colder weather cardigan than a spring summer cardigan. Again, we do live in England though, you never know, do you? I'm really loving how this is looking so far, and I just can't wait to have it done, and I feel like it's just taking forever and I just want it to be done now. So I really do need to get on with this sleeve and get it done as quickly as I can. But then once I've done the second sleeve, I then need to navigate knitting a double knitting button band, which I've never done before. So if you're a knitter and you know how to do double knitting button bands, then let me know. Give me some words of encouragement because it does feel, looking at the process, it does look a little bit as if it's a little bit faffy, and yeah, I really like the look of it, but I am a little bit nervous about doing that for the first time, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get my head around it and do it properly. That's where I am with this one, plodding along definitely, and my mind is being very distracted at the moment by all the summer knits out there, and I keep watching knitting podcasts and getting inspired to knit all of the other things as well. So yeah, got to keep going, must keep going with this one. I just want it to be done. So in the spirit of having something that's a little bit challenging and something that's more easy on the go that I can just pick up and do without thinking, I did cast on something else which I will share with you now. So I was totally inspired to cast this vest on by a lovely vlogger that I've just discovered called Ginger and Rose, but you may have already watched her video. She knits some beautiful things and she's just started vlogging, so I'll link her channel down below. But she was knitting this vest. This is the Tolster vest by the Creeby. So this is a lovely simple style vest, and I'll pop in a picture as well so that you can see this properly. Basically, it's a really simple style vest that you knit in the round, bottom up, and then you split at the armholes, and there are loads of different necklines that you can knit with this. So on the picture here, it's just showing the round neck, but you can actually knit a V-neck, and you can also knit a more strappy version as well. So I just really wanted something that I could just sit and knit and not think too much about. So even though I'm quite in the rhythm with my fisherman's rib sleeves now, I do have to look down and just make sure that I'm knitting into the stitch properly, and I really just wanted something that I could just knit without even looking while I'm watching the telly. So this just came to my knowledge at the right time really, and it is a summery knit, so it'll be something really nice to knit for summertime that hopefully won't take too long to knit up, so that I can actually get some wear out of it whenever summer does come around. So I'm not too far into this at the moment. This is how far I've knit, and it is on quite a small wire, so it's obviously going to be bigger than this when I stretch it out. This is actually an acrylic yarn which I picked up from Hobbycraft, and I was kind of annoyed with myself in a way when I did buy this, because I've been trying to avoid buying acrylic yarns, but it does feel really lovely and really soft. It doesn't feel too plasticky, I guess. It's the Women's Institute Soft and Cuddly yarn, and so it does say 100% acrylic, although it is quite fluffy, and it's in the shade sea green, so it's a kind of bluey green, and I thought I would go for something different to my normal neutrals and go for a green. So that's as far as I've got at the moment, and then I'm not sure what neckline I'm actually going to do yet, and I don't think you need to decide until you split for the armholes, so I'm going to keep going, and then I'll have to decide when I get to the armholes which neckline I'm going to do. I kind of fancy doing a V-neck actually, because I don't think I've ever really knit anything with a V-neck, and that will be something different. So that is my mindless knitting project that I'm just knitting while I'm watching TV. At the moment I've just started watching something actually called Sirens. It's on Netflix. It's really it's a bit of a thriller, and yeah, I'm watching that while I'm knitting this at the moment. This is going to be my Sirens sweater, I guess. And then lastly in knitting, and I do apologise if you are over on Patreon because you've heard this sorry story a few times now, but I haven't shared it on YouTube yet, so feel free to skip forward if you have heard this story already. However, I think I did share in a previous podcasty video that I was knitting another vest in this lovely Rowan cotton DK in various different coloured stripes. So there's a little bit of a story that goes along with this one. I started and finished the back of this, and I absolutely loved the stripes. We won't talk too much about all the ends that I've got to weave in here eventually. So yeah, the back was done, that was all fine, and then I started to knit the front. And then I didn't realise until I came to hold the back and front together that I had actually been knitting in 2 different shades of white. So I've got a bright white here, which is what I've been using for the front, and then the whole back has been knit with like an off-white. And it doesn't sound as though that would make too much difference, but actually when you hold these 2 colours together, it really does notice, and I don't like it. So somehow, without even realising, knit the whole back with the off-white, knit that far into the front with the bright white, and now I have a back and a front that don't match. So this has sat in the naughty bag for some time while I've decided what to do with it. And as I mentioned on Patreon last week, I think, I've decided now to rip the front back, and I'm going to order some of the cream and I'm going to re-knit the front, I think, so that we've got the 2 colours together. I know some people did say to me over there it probably won't notice too much, but to me it really will notice, and I think actually it's not really picking up on the camera how noticeable it actually is, so I'm going to have to do something about it, or I know I won't wear it. So I need to reorder the cream colour, and I probably just need to knit the front. But another idea I've had is that if I really like this vest that I'm knitting by the Creeby, the toaster vest, perhaps I should just rip back all of this and re-knit this with that pattern. And the only reason I'm considering doing that is because that pattern is knit in the round, and it would be far easier with the stripes to knit in the round than it would to sew them all up with all of these ends. So I'm in a bit of a dilemma about this. What would you do? Let me know what you would do. I mean, I definitely have decided now that I do need to re-knit it in the cream colour. So one way or another, I'm going to have to re-knit something. Would you rip the whole lot back and knit it in the round? I'm feeling as though I know it's going to be really painful to undo all of this and start again. But in the long term, maybe re-knitting it in the round is actually going to save me more time than eventually sort of matching up the stripes to sew it up and sewing in all the ends and everything. I know I'm still going to have ends to weave in the round, but I'm thinking surely it's much easier to just knit stripes in the round than it is flat and then sew them up. What would you do? Let me know. Anyway, this is annoying me because I'm so happy with how that stripe detail looks, and I love these colours, and I was so looking forward to having this done. I know I'm holding this upside down, but I was really looking forward to having this done, and then that happened and it's just sat there for a little while and I've just been annoyed with it basically. So I need to revisit that at some point, but I think what I am going to do is knit the rest of that green vest first and see what I think of the pattern, and if I do, I've got fluff going up my nose. If I do really like that pattern, and if I find it's much quicker to knit that way, then I might just redo the whole thing. I don't know, we will see, but I thought I would just share that with you, little knitting dilemma. That's where I am with all of my knitting projects, and I realised that I forgot to tell you that with the Toaster Tank, I actually originally downloaded another pattern of hers called the Toaster Tee, which is, I believe, a similar style pattern, but it's actually a t-shirt rather than a tank top, so it has sleeves. So I downloaded that pattern first, and that was originally what I was going to knit for my easier project. But then when I came to look at the pattern, I realised that there was one of my knitting nemesises in the pattern, which is German short rows. And I've not yet tried a pattern with German short rows in. And I know that it's something that I need to get over in terms of my knitting, because there are so many patterns out there that use German short rows for shaping, and I just need to get over myself and learn how to do them so that I can do all these other lovely patterns. But anyway, for the time being, because I just wanted something really simple to knit, I decided to go for the vest rather than the sleeved tank t-shirt. Yeah, that's another really lovely pattern, and it's definitely one that I would like to try for the future, particularly the eyelet version, because I think it's really pretty. But if you're a knitter, let me know what you think of German short rows. Are they easy to learn? Am I just being scared for no reason? Let me know. It's similar to how I felt about knitting in the round actually. I used to avoid knitting patterns that were done in the round because I'd not done it before, and now that I've learnt it and now I know how to do it, I just love knitting in the round, and it actually puts me more off knitting things flat than it does knitting in the round. So I just need to get over myself really and just learn how to do it. But anyway, let me know if you are a knitter. Let me know if there's anything to be scared of or not. Anyway, I think I'm out reading now, so let's move on to what I've been reading lately. So I think last time I spoke to you about reading, I was just nearly finished with Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. I finished that book now and I absolutely loved it. I think I gave it a 4-star on Goodreads. I really enjoyed it. It was one of her better books, I think. Probably my most favourite of hers actually so far. It was really good and it kept me gripped till the end. So I do highly recommend that one. And then I moved on to this one, Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So I've spoken about this one before. It came highly recommended by so many people saying, you will just love this series. I love it so much. I can't believe that you've not read it. I'm so jealous of you that you've got all of it to read. So I thought I must give this a go. And it's not really a genre of book that I generally tend to read. I think you'd describe this as like romantasy, so like fantasy and romance. And it's not something that I generally tend to pick up, but because it came so highly recommended, I thought I'm going to give it a go and see what I think. So I really tried with this book. I really wanted to get to the end of it and I wanted to be able to give it a full opinion, but I had to give up that far through. Oops, I'm about just over halfway through, I guess. And yeah, I've had to give up because I'm just not getting it at all. And I think it's just because I'm just not really into that kind of fiction. I don't know, but I really did give it a good go. I took it on holiday with me. I read it on our flight. I read it at bedtime, but then it just got to the point where I just didn't want to pick it up. I wasn't invested in the story at all. I didn't really get on with any of the characters in the book, didn't sympathise with them, wasn't particularly bothered with how the story went. And I don't think that's how I should have been feeling about this book. And eventually it was getting to the point where it was stopping me reading because I didn't want to pick this up. I just didn't want to read it, and therefore I just wasn't reading anything, because normally I'm the kind of person that likes to finish a book. I hate leaving books unread and unfinished, but with this one I've had to pause it. So I've left the bookmark in the book and I'm reading something else now, and I'm going to come back to it maybe if I feel like I want to later on. So yeah, I'm confused about this. Let me know if you've read this. I know a few people in the comments last time I mentioned it did say that they loved it. Some people didn't get on with it so much. I did feel a bit when I was reading it as though I was the only person that hadn't got on with it. So I did something that I don't generally do while I'm reading a book, and I actually popped over to Goodreads and read a few reviews to see if I was the only one feeling that way, and it seemed as though there are very mixed reviews about this book. I didn't particularly get on with the writing style either. I think, I don't know, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the story, but I didn't particularly love the writing style, let's just say. And also I found the main character a little bit annoying. But maybe that's just me. She did annoy me at various different parts of the book, as far as I got in anyway. So this one has been parked for a little while and I may or may not come back to it. So after that, I decided that I wanted something that was just really easy to read, just to get me back into reading. And I went back to an author that I absolutely loved in the beginning of in my early days of reading. When I first started getting into novels, I read a lot of Rosamund Pilcher books, and one of her books, Coming Home, is my most favourite book ever, and she's also written The Shell Seekers, which is another brilliant story which I absolutely loved. And my mum volunteers at the library local to us, so I said to her, can you just look and see if there are any Rosamund Pilcher books that I haven't read before? And she found this short story by her called Sleeping Tiger, which I'll pop in here because it is back at the library now. This is a lovely short story. It's only about 200 pages and it's quite a nice quick read. And I read that one really quickly and it kind of got me back into the rhythm of reading after stopping for a while. So this was a really nice, really easy to read, very gentle story, I would say, quite old-fashioned in a lot of what it said and what it talked about. But it was just a lovely story and it was just nice to read in between books, if you know what I mean. A lot of Rosamund Pilcher books are really chunky books, quite long stories. So this is obviously one of her shorter stories. And I wouldn't say it's her best, definitely not. I mean, the story is a little bit, it kind of plods along at the end, but because it's quite short, you can get there, you can get to the end quite easily. So yeah, I would recommend that if you just want a nice, easy story to read. And then what I've moved on to now is The Household by Stacey Halls. So this one is Stacey Hall's latest book, and I picked this up from a lovely local bookshop to us called The Lucky Hare. Lovely bookshop, they have loads of events on as well. So I thought I would buy this from them rather than buying it from Amazon or Tesco or anything, and just try to support a local bookshop. So I'm not very far into this one at all. I've only read the first chapter. I literally started it at the weekend. But the synopsis of this one is Charles Dickens' home for fallen women in 1847, and it's all about the ladies that go and live in this refuge home and their lives, and some of their past that comes back to haunt them and all that kind of thing. So I feel like this one is more up my street. I love a bit of historical fiction. It's probably my most favourite genre of book to read. So I feel a little bit more at home in this one than I think I do in the fantasy novel. So I'll let you know what I think of this one, but if you have read this already, let me know what you thought in the comments. She's definitely one of my favourite authors, Stacey Hall. I love all of her books, so I have high hopes for this one. So I actually think that's everything I need to catch you up on for now: sewing, knitting and reading. I'm really looking forward to summer sewing now. I have so many summer plans, and in a video coming up soon I'll be sharing with you some new fabrics and some sewing plans that I have coming up, so stay tuned for that one. I really hope you've enjoyed today's more relaxed, chatty style video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do consider subscribing. I would love to have you as a subscriber, and if you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like as well. You can also follow me over on Instagram for more day-to-day photos and reels and videos and behind the scenes, and as I mentioned, I also have a sewing membership over on Patreon where I post much more in detail videos and also a bonus monthly vlog as well, and I'd love to have you join us over there. Otherwise, take care everyone, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.